Okay, so I'll continue at English. My name is Vitalii. I'm working as Scala DevOps at Dateroot Labs. So I'm responsible for developing applications in functional manner using cats and cats effects, shapeless, Akka, big data stack, Apache Spark, Kafka, and some DevOps tools like Linux, Bash, Kubernetes, and Ansible. So quickly to the main idea of Trembita. Developing this library, I figure out that it is easier to see the program as a data pipeline. So this is the main idea of Trembita. So program is a data pipeline running in some environment or effect transformed into instructions to the processor by the compiler. So data pipeline connects data source, data destination, performing stateful or stateless transformations with or without side effects. So Trembita kernel consists of sequential and parallel data pipelines and two features. First is Trembita QL. Who is familiar with Apache Spark? Who uses Apache Spark? And Apache Spark SQL. Yeah, Trembita QL is like Spark SQL, but type safe. More like Spark SQL with frameless. And Trembita FSM is for stateful transformations. You could define finite state machine in easy way, and it's more friendly. So Trembita kernel depends on cats and cats effects. Shapeless, Spire, it's a numeric library. And there are a lot of model-specific dependencies like Cassandra driver, SOSI, and so on. So the main what is data pipeline actually? So if you look at the left side, you can see the typical abstractions that most Scala developers work with. And the right side, there is data pipeline. So data pipeline is a type that takes 4 type parameters. Type A, it's your data. The second one is the monad, actually monad error. Try, future, IO. The third is data pipeline could be actually finite or infinite. If you see at this, sequence is finite, but Akka source is infinite. And this stream also. The last type parameter is it's called execution. It could be sequential, parallel, or distributed. So the main feature of Trembita is generic abstraction for the most commonly used abstractions, like collections, streams, and RDDs. What API data pipeline provides? Actually, data pipeline is a monad error, so it has map, flat map, and handle error. It has a function consume. It's similar to onComplete or future. It takes a function from either exception or your data and returns a unit. So if your pipeline is finite, it will return a unit, a single instance of unit wrapped into your monad, for instance, try, future. Or if it is infinite, it will block or will return, for instance, a future that will be completed when the pipeline completes. So most functions are, you can use most functions for both finite and infinite pipelines, but there are a lot of specific transformations for finite pipelines. The most important are eval and eval-s. First, takes your data pipeline and converts it into a vector wrapped into your monad. In eval-s, you could specify an arbitrary collection like list, non-empty list, set. It is common, frequently used functions of collections. Also, your finite data pipeline could be as some kind of map. So you could convert a pipeline of tuples into a map pipeline. The most interesting functions are map_m and map_k. Map_m, it's like in Haskell, but it's more like map_async of ACA streams. For instance, if your data pipeline is running at futures, map_m takes a function from A to future B. Map_k, it's when you map in canes. For instance, if you have data pipeline of futures, it could take a function from A to cats effects IOB. And as you know, IO monad could be converted to future. So FSM is a function that takes your finite state machine to perform stateful computations. Query is a method that takes your query to perform Trembita QL. So I have connectors to Cassandra, module integrating Scala Phantom. Who is using Phantom? Nobody? Sadly. Module for logging, I use SLF4j, so you could use logback and other logging libraries. Trembitization is for serialization. Currently, it supports only SOSI. Just to convert JSON, I will show a demo. So it's time for demo. First, I'll show you the data pipeline itself. So, yeah. So, as you see, the data pipeline takes 4 type parameters. Oh, data pipeline is lazy. It's important. So I'll show you an example from our project. Long story short, I was developing projects for Israel company selling devices that you could put on your car or motorcycle. It will send to our servers data with metrics, coordinates, and timestamps. So, developing Trembita, I saw a pattern that is frequently used for reports. First, I'll show you an example from our production code. Yeah. So, the main problem is that before we could generate reports, there are a sequential part of our algorithm. We cannot generate, a moment please. Yeah, so units send us messages like these ones. It's identifier, timestamp, some metrics, and the most important is ignition. So we cannot generate some driving activity on fly because unit can send messages not ordered. So generating report, we need to convert a batch of unit messages into driving activity each time. So it's the reason why we aren't using Apache Spark. The best solution we found, it's ACA streams. So I'll show you a piece of code written with ACA streams. So First, we take data from our Cassandra database. This flow is a custom graph stage that actually converts a bunch of unit messages into some trip or idle. Then we filter it. Can you repeat? Sorry, I don't know how to zoom. Oh, thank you. I'm newbie in macOS. Is it better? So, it's painful to write such things in echo streams. I've written an implicit function just to provide a combined by key like in Apache Spark. So as you see, I'm using shapeless here. But even with shapeless, it is painful to write such algorithms. For instance, it automatically derives a monoid for such H-lists. But there are still a lot of code. And I'll show you an example written with Trembita. Is it better? Still Scala, yeah. First I'll show you the finite state machine. So there is a function called FSM. It takes two parameters. First is initial state. You could provide an initial state from the first element, and it takes a lambda. Or you can just put a pure state. Okay. Yeah. Then it's some kind of DSL, like, have anybody used Akka Actor FSM? Yeah. It's very similar to it, but you cannot define not completed FSM, so there will be no runtime exceptions, actually. This special case when undefined handles it. So, the transport has only two states, driving and idle. So, when it's driving, and there are a message with ignition off, the unit is going to state idle and pushing the driver activity. This is a special case handling that this is a message from the same unit. So go to mod push is a command. So I'll show all of the functions. You could just go to stay, change the state data, modify the state data, push some data. Only one element, a lot of elements. You could push nothing. Yeah, it's don't push. It's FSM, it's like actors, but without supervision. So this is the sequential part of that algorithm. Then I'll show you the Trembita QL. So, yeah, very big. First, we filter all activities that ignition is on. So we take only trips. Then we group it by unit ID. This is tagging, like in Shapeless or in Macquire, but I wrote a specific tag just to keep this type in runtime. It's a type, like HList, but more specific. Then after group by, we could aggregate. So I'm taking coverage distance, ls in it, and in the result I will have coverage distance summed for this trip type. Oh, trip type could be private, business, and so on. So after this aggregate, I will have the sum of covered distance for the strip type, for the unit ID, and in total. The same with average activity duration and the maximum covered distance. And very interesting thing. Type much longer than definition, actually, suddenly Trembita. So, what is the type of this get? Who think it's any? Who think that it's some specific type? Who think that it is double? No, it's double. So, just a simple demo. Now it will become a string. Yeah, it's a string. And it's type safety. And it's time for a demo. I've deployed Cassandra in Docker and downloaded some data from the production database. A minute, please. Yeah. So it's like table, actually. But you could write, for instance, a SQL query if your data is in Postgres, but it's impossible for Cassandra. So, yeah, it's success. Then, how do you think? What will happen if I try to take an average of string? Let me show you. Yeah, you're right, but let's see the compiler error. Yeah. So, average requires a field. So, and also there's a lot of aggregation functions. Sum, average, count, product, you could collect it all in an array. You could calculate deviation, root mean square, or just take a random value. Okay. And let's convert this table into JSON. Oh. Yeah, yeah. And now you could transfer it to the front end. So the front end developer will think what to do with this. So how it looks like? Strange. Yeah, it's very strange. If you look at the source code, you will cry. because it's very hard. But it eliminates a lot of boilerplate. It compiles, I don't know. Yeah, I understand. I've measured it a month ago. Maybe I have a screenshot. Oh. The performance of Trembita, of the sequential version, is much like the same version written with echo streams. In some cases faster, in some cases not slower. So, the main message of Trembita is that it's versus boilerplate. We should eliminate boilerplate and write our code more functional and dry and solid. So, if anyone would like to contribute, you are open. The repository is open, yeah. Here it is. So, I think it's all. Do anyone have some questions? Yeah?
You say Spark untyped. What about datasets?
As I know, in datasets, you just put strings as column names. Yeah?
No.
Let's see. Oh, no, datasets. I thought about data frames.
Yeah.
But it's painful to write. I've forgotten the type class you should implement for dataset. But why is somebody written frameless for Spark SQL?
I don't know.
So let's Google. It provides more expensive types. The main benefit of Trembita QL is that you could provide your own type classes like monoids, fields, and roots. It will automatically derive. Can you wait? Can you wait a bit? I'll show you just an example.
Okay.
Where is it?
So now it's a good news, and we have free time, and you can ask as much questions as you want. And if speaker is okay to continue, we are continuing.
So, this thing is very scalable because of this implicit function. So, yeah, having a monoid for your arbitrary A, you could calculate sum, and having ordering, you could get the maximum or minimum. So, as I know, Spark SQL is not such scalable as Trembita because there are a lot of type classes, Inspire, that you could implement for your data types. I answered your question? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you.